All right. Thanks so much, Kelly, and you can take it away.
Okay, so I have worked with this group a little bit so far. I recognize a few names and faces that are on here. So I'm not quite sure if some of this would be a review for some of you or new. So I will walk through some just general information about WISHRM and this partnership, and then I'd like to open it up for some discussion at the end. So that's kind of my thoughts today. So we'll start with introductions. My name's Kellie Dunn. I am the WISHRM Workforce Readiness Director. So for those of you who are not familiar, WISHRM is a volunteer organization of HR professionals in a variety of different disciplines. I do work in my paid job for AMCOR as in human resources, but have volunteered with SHRM for, gosh, 30 plus years. So different roles in with SHRM, whether it be on the local level or the state level, and just in general, personally, very passionate about programs that help employees, communities, businesses, just because I've been in this profession for so long. So that's who I am. So the Workforce Readiness Director title is focused within SHRM. In general, that director focuses on partnerships with SHRM, anything for the workforce initiatives. So it could be information sharing, it could be programs, it could be website resources, it could be leading initiatives, just a variety of different focus areas. And I am here for the state. So if you want to look at the WISHRM structure the Society for Human Resource Management in general is a national, actually international organization. And I'm really at the state level for Wisconsin. There is most likely a workforce readiness director for Illinois and Indiana and all of the other, states. Our WISHRM, it really is focused on volunteers that have joined chapters within the state of Wisconsin. So if you look at the map, you can see where the different chapters are located as far as the different areas. So as you see where, if you look at your library system, where we are more heavily focused and where we don't have as many focus areas. So we have local members and national members. It's just that oftentimes the volunteers are joining chapters because they're gaining the resources and gaining knowledge, and there's speakers and there's programs and different partnerships. It is just that is where the bulk of the chapters are in the different regions. So membership profile overall, it could be people who are managers, leaders. It could be people who are generalists and do a little bit of everything, like myself. It could be a specialist, someone who focuses solely on compensation, equity, maybe just on the benefit side, maybe someone who's solely focusing on recruitment. We do have periodically those who are attorneys, that's focused in the employment law area. It could be services or partnerships with nonprofit who focus on HR services. It's small companies, it's large companies. It could be people that are members of those chapters, like back here in the map, or it could be individuals who we call at large. And what that particularly means is that it's individuals who maybe are in the northern part of the state and there just really isn't a chapter. So we call them at large because they are members of the Global Society for Human Resource Management, but maybe are not connected to a chapter. Because they still get information from the national group, just not on a local level, because there isn't really anything in their area. So, getting into a little bit about WISHRM professionals, again, we're all volunteers. We like to, do this certainly for our own educational and benefit, to help as well, maybe help with, the current job that we have. So HR professionals within WISHRM could be individuals that can help people, understand what they need for job search skills. It could be resume and cover letter writing. It could be career development. It could be people who are, doing like an interviewing skills event, certainly networking, connections, presentations on topics. And I included these here a little bit because just wanted to give you a general idea of some of the other partnerships we have going. We are working with the DWD in Wisconsin for apprenticeship programs because the apprenticeships have really expanded. And now the traditional apprentices, for those of you who have, been around in your profession for a while, have always been in the technical field, whether it's maintenance or engineering. And now they're opening up to a broader spectrum. And that broader spectrum would be HR apprentices. It could be apprentices in, other restaurant industries, or they've really expanded that out. So we've been really working with them to get the word out, market that a little bit, because that does partner really well with HR. And it also partners really well because, there is Wisconsin grant opportunities that companies can get to pay to cover some of the costs as they work through that apprentice. Other things, one of the chapters, I just thought I'd toss it out there for just to give you a general idea. One of the chapters is coordinating a conference on how to hire international workers. Those would be people who maybe have come through an organization. Maybe they came over from Africa or, different countries on, asylum visas or something like that. And now they're here, they're living in the state. They don't really speak English very well. They're struggling. They've had to leave unexpectedly. We had some folks coming in, leave unexpectedly, and all of a sudden they come here with nothing. And, how to hire them and incorporate them into your workplace. So just those types of different things and partnerships that are going on within WISHRM, in addition to LODs that we've been working with Chris and Mark and team on. So I included in the presentation as well, the National SHRM also provides lots of different toolkits or details on different areas of employment. So that could be working veterans at work. There is a website out there, and I included the links in the presentation I sent you, Chris, that it's the military community and tips for solutions on how to incorporate getting back to work. There's Opportunity Youth. Things and areas for youth that maybe, are struggling. Everybody comes from a different home life, right? And on how to get out there and get jobs and that type of thing, in their age group. They've got toolkits for employing abilities. So for individuals, there's a job out there for everybody. It's just everybody's different on what they have for abilities to do. Some people who maybe can't climb the ladder to get up, to work on the press, maybe are better focused in logistics because, it's a seated position and they can, coordinate all the trucks coming in and out of the building. So it's just different certificates that you can get to, work to learn more about employing abilities. Aging workforce. Those of us like myself, woohoo, are going to get ready to retire at some point and, may want to still do some things afterward, how to work with that group and other things on getting talent back to work. So all of these are just different resources that can be shared and, help individuals depending on the focus area. So, and I'll let, Chris, you can jump in anytime. But part of the Library Workforce Connection group partnership with SHRM started out where LODS changed over to Library Workforce Connection. And then we started these workshops since early 2023. Those workshops have been in the 3 different areas. The Portage County area, Hayward and Green Bay, Brown County was the most recent, and included speakers from different organizations. What was nice about those is that as we got closer to the 3rd one, where we had a lot of different WISHRM, members in the area, they could come, they could learn what this partnership is, and then hopefully get everybody connected so that at that point there could be speakers. Maybe you can use spaces for hiring events, or maybe there could be, a workshop or something that's held at the library in the area. So some of the things there, I think really has helped, with that partnership. And looking forward to see how the virtual is going to, go, for that area of Wisconsin, because if we went back to the map, there's certainly WISHRM chapters in that, part of the state. So, I kind of thought about this area and, whom I was speaking with today. And, you're all probably sitting there, okay, so how do you get started with this? So the questions I kind of put out there and I'd like to talk about here as a group and, just the last half of this is, what I guess, starting out thinking about what are the workforce challenges within your communities. The next, area is certainly to see if there's a WISHRM chapter in your area. We started out by, putting a link on the site and then having the opportunity for WISHRM volunteers to volunteer to help, at their local, library, whatever was in their area. And, we had some, but not as much, I think, as we would have liked. It seems to be maybe the better focus is if you have a WISHRM chapter in your area, starting out talking to the board and trying to connect with them that way, because that partnership, can bring, a lot of benefits depending on what the focus area is. Because I think each of our communities are different. We all have different, and that was really clear, as we went to the different parts of the state, that each community seemed to have a different need, depending on, their area. And one solution, could be adapted to use at another area, or maybe wouldn't be as impactful as it would in a different area. Green Bay was much different than the northern part of Wisconsin and Hayward on what they needed. So I guess, I would encourage maybe starting with your strategic planning and what you do, throughout the year, because if you can find a strategy in your area that you're most passionate about and connect with a WISHRM chapter, it might be a really interesting partnership. Just to take the example, and I don't know how much this is impacting in the area, but the example of the chapter who's doing the workshop, I'll flip back here, for how to hire international workers. Again, I'm not sure how much that's showing up in your communities, but that might be a really good opportunity to partner with that group and, show what resources the local libraries in the area could also offer, which could be highlighted at, maybe that WISHRM workshop. Just talking as far as, thoughts and ideas. But just one that came to mind, because the chapters may have workforce readiness representatives local that, could be good to set up, maybe a regular meeting with. So my other thought as we were coming here today, and I know I'm coming up to, getting close to the time here, but supporting a solution. Partner agencies, who you could partner with to bring in these experts. If there's a local workforce collaboration project or workshop that could be connected with WISHRM in the area, once WISHRM is involved, oftentimes the volunteers, will come with them. Maybe there's some ongoing meetings or, partnerships that you can have with a chapter in the area. Maybe there are challenges and opportunities that could be ongoing areas of focus. And what I've really learned, I think it was through Beth, through this group, and that was a learning for me, is share your successes with the media and community organizations. The more you can get that information out there that they're having a workshop to hire, how to hire international workers, or that they are, any of those type of media focuses, people will read it and people will come. So with WISHRM, we do also have lots of different resources. We have a magazine that comes out that I've been writing some small articles on our different workshops that we've been having. But if there's other things we can highlight, they do have to be, a focus of nonprofit, no cost type of initiatives or educational resources, just because it's, goes through with SHRM or something that's partnered with SHRM. But, that's an opportunity between that and emails that go out to a wide variety of HR professionals. So I guess what I, wanted to, leave you with more of a discussion here a little bit today, if we have a few minutes, is that in general, I guess our hope is that the partnerships created with the group and Wisconsin SHRM can really be used for future public facing programs and initiatives. So we want to continue to build those connections, and I'd love to hear from those of you who've heard a little bit about this, what you think would be additional plans, for this partnership, or additional things we could be bringing to the partnership. So I will open that up. And Chris, I don't know if you want to facilitate or how you want to handle that, but that's, I guess, my ask of the group.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to help facilitate. So I would ask anybody, please go ahead and raise your hand. This is a great opportunity to start exploring this conversation with Kellie. Yeah, Zephyr.
Hey, thanks. And good to see you again, Kelly. I know we saw each other a couple months ago. So we're in the early processes at the Appleton Public Library of starting to plan for when we move back downtown into our renovated building, and we'll start expanding services. And you had mentioned a few minutes ago about reaching out to local chapter boards, but I noticed our local chapter in the Fox Cities has a VP of Workforce Readiness. Would that be a better start, or do you still recommend reaching out to the board?
In that chapter is one of the larger chapters, so they actually have a workforce readiness representative. So absolutely, I agree with you. I'd reach out to that person on the board. You can, do that person and the president, and reach out directly. It would be, they're fairly active because they're fairly large. Some of the
Okay.
chapters are smaller and they may not have that actual title on their board. Appleton does.
Cool. And then I have you had asked for like a recommendation of things, when I look at kind of all the barriers or the challenges we're facing, I think we're seeing a large number of people come to us who aren't fluent in English. And so if we could find other employers who might already have on-site supervisors who maybe are able to translate. So I'm talking specifically like French or Kenya, Rwanda for our African immigrants or newcomers. And then another big one is digital literacy, especially for folks, maybe 50, 55 and older. It feels like there's a lot of, especially in Appleton, grant funded digital literacy classes that pop up here and there, but there's nothing consistent. And so just I know that's not your job, but if you're aware of any of those types of resources, that would be helpful. We do the best we can. We offer one-to-one services. The other thing I think you had mentioned, and maybe a couple months ago, is that sometimes local chapters of WISHRM are eager to volunteer to help with putting on workshops for like resume writing, interview skills, things like that. We'll definitely be, reaching out to see if we can cultivate that kind of a relationship, because we do have a job connection, which is more one-to-one, but we get so many requests that sometimes we don't have capacity to manage a one-to-one situation.
Right. I guess let's start by getting you connected with the workforce readiness leader in Appleton. When is it going to be done? I've been kind of watching the construction myself.
Yeah, we should be moving back in like January, February timeline if they stay on track. And they've been on track. We've maybe seen a few weeks slippage earlier in the year, but none since then.
Okay. So let's get you started, I guess let's over there. As far as when you're talking translators, are you talking those who would be able to volunteer and, help like, office hours or something like that?
No, I think I was thinking more. So, for example, a couple years ago during the pandemic, there was one of the Menasha Corporation packaging facilities had two supervisors on staff. One spoke Spanish and English, the other spoke Kinyarwanda and English. And they were both able, because they were supervisors, they were able to help translate for some of the newcomers. And I was just wondering if maybe of any other employers who might have similar situations. I get a lot of requests for people who are looking for jobs. They've got a lot of work experience in their home countries, but they are not fluent in English yet. And they often need really flexible schedules because they are taking English classes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's get you connected there and then, take it from there.
Cool, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Zephyr. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity if you've got even some local questions to bring up as a discussion point with Kelly, to go ahead and dig into it. So anybody else have some questions? I see Xander asked in chat, is this the local chapter for Kenosha Racine? It looks like it's the SHRM Racine and Kenosha area chapter.
The local chapter for the Fox Valley would be, well, the Appleton Fox Valley chapter. There is one in Racine and Kenosha as well.
That's sorry. Xander works with Kenosha and Racine area. That's why I think he was asking for that. So that is the. Does that look like if this is the right website, Kelly?
Let me get back to the map.
Yeah.
Racine and Kenosha is there just a little bit smaller, I would say. But if they do have a representative, I would still reach out there directly.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same logo, so that's perfect. Awesome. Anybody else have questions for Kelly? Especially if you're thinking about what a SHRM partnership or referrals to SHRM in a local part of your library system or library network might look like. If there's specific needs that you are wondering whether SHRM could assist with, things SHRM can't do, or maybe wouldn't be the most appropriate to do. See that Millie mentioned. Yeah, go ahead, Millie.
No, for an announcement at the end. I couldn't see the screen, so I said I better send it now. But about the bio tech hub that we got the money for. Wanted to mention too, I am happy to, if I can get some flyers or something about the SHRM, because we're in several libraries, and I'm pushing the whole workforce agenda, if you will, into the community for resources and opportunity. And this would be so nice to have some flyers. We like to take resources from our partners with and share and answer questions that people may have about it. But we're happy to have that as part of our presentation when we're out.
That'd be excellent. So would you, Kelly, maybe be able to connect with Millie via email or whatever you need and coordinate sending some flyers or some things out to share?
Yeah, so I think Millie and I've met actually at the first event.
Yeah, that's right. Back in Portage.
Yeah, we can connect, separately. It would probably be flyers on what WISHRM is, to go out directly that way. It's workforce is just so vast. There's just such a vast number of things you could do with it, that we almost have to take our, and focus on our, 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So I could put out the general information. So we can connect on offline.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions for Kelly while we have her?
Yeah, Kelly, ideally, like if we, for like anything that's kind of like a referral, what is the kind of ideal kind of referral that you'd be like, yes, definitely, please refer that kind of question to us?
Good question.
Sure. So, I mean, we are, again, a nonprofit organization, educational for human resources. So I probably should clarify, referral, if you want to send, if there's a local chapter in your area and a local workforce readiness, and you want to talk with them directly on, hey, I had this thought, could we partnership on this program or this idea for our community? Any of those types, can go directly. I can answer general questions. But what WISHRM is not is really, we're not like a recruitment agency in the sense that we don't, there's companies out there that will like look and help and recruit for jobs. That we're just a vast number of different HR professionals. So it's a matter of connecting people with, companies to say, hey, there's this job hiring fair, this job fair or something like that, because not all the companies are hiring, some aren't, and there's a variety different there. So I guess I'm not sure if I'm answering your question directly, but just to kind of understand, depending on what the referral is for.
I think that answered that. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I highly, highly recommend that everybody in this meeting familiarize yourself quite a bit with WISHRM, and keep that in your back pocket when you get questions from librarians in your network that are looking for, if they're at capacity and they're saying, I know we're starting to get more and more questions about these types of things, but we would really love for somebody to assist with this. I mean, we've talked about other organizations that sometimes offer drop-in hours at libraries, just grab one of the study rooms or whatever, and are prepared to be there to help with, like Zephyr mentioned, digital literacy assistance, or potentially it is developing a cover letter and resume, understanding how to navigate applying for jobs, that kind of stuff that takes quite a bit of time for your frontline staff librarians, and they might not feel totally prepared, especially if there's anything that deals with what might be considered sensitive information. Librarians are understandably very cautious about getting involved in anything that uses social security numbers or has to do with taxes or medical paperwork, these types of things. So I'd really recommend that you keep that link to the SHRM chapters handy. Be prepared to email or refer people, see if there is a SHRM volunteer that is nearby that somebody can be put in touch with to offer some referral assistance. And I would also say, Kelly, if you wouldn't mind popping your email into our chat, then if any other questions come up, I presume, Kelly, some of the folks here could also reach out to you as a follow-up and ask if they could get some assistance.
Sure. Yes. Just send me an email.
Perfect.
I'm just popping that in here right now. I stopped sharing for you
Yeah,
too,
no problem.
depending on what you are.
That's perfect. Great. I also see Millie, you got your hand up, and please, now is your time. I'm gonna go ahead, and I think we're done with the WISHRM portion of this recording, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this recording here. I'm gonna stop recording, and then we'll move on to Millie. You got an announcement. You can share out some of the things. So thank you so much, Kelly, for your presentation and insight, and I look forward to our continued strong partnership with WISHRM. Thank you.
Yes, we'll probably see it on whenever your next digital is.